As a man thinketh, so is he. What a man thinks in his heart, or a woman thinks, how a person thinks in their heart is who they will be. What are the pictures? What are the images you have on the inside of you? Because that is what is spilling out on a daily basis. Who you are now, where you go, what you do, the money that you're making is all imagery that you carried for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And where you are now is because of that. So if you want to go somewhere new, if you have a new destination in mind, you have to get new pictures, new images on the inside of you. Welcome. This is day 25 of my 75 Hard Challenge, a mental toughness program that I am knee deep in. Definitely encourage you to check that out if you're new to the 75 Hard. If you want to make radical change in your life, this is a great way to look at doing that. There's also something called the 75 Soft and the 75 Mini that I coined. More videos are on that you can go find. But really today, what I want to do is challenge you with this bite-sized nugget around the power of visualization, the power of the imagination. It goes back to everything that we see around us was imagined by someone at some point in history. Every product, every piece of technology, everything that you use on a daily basis started in the heart of someone. You are where you are in life because that is what you have seen for yourself. That's really tough to say. But the reality is, every one of us, we don't get a choice of what life we're born into, who our parents are, where we're born. But everyone gets to choose who they marry, where they're going to live, what they're going to do, and what they're going to do with the cards that they've been dealt. And learn to play that hand. The game of life is that you're not stuck with the cards that you're dealt. You can trade those cards. You can learn new ways of being, learn new ways of doing. The world is really limitless. The world is your oyster, but we get so beat down in life by circumstances and by people that most of us are like the proverbial elephant with a chain around its foot that's not even staked into the ground or hammered in with a nail. That elephant could not be chained if it knew who it was and the strength that it had, but it's been so beat down mentally and it's sunk down so deep in the heart of that elephant that it feels no bigger than a mouse. My challenge to you today is to remind you of who you are. As the words my mom used to say, remember who you are and what you're called to. For me, that had a very spiritual nature. That was remembering who God created me to be and what God called me to do with the gifts and talents that I had. Although I never really knew what that was, my whole journey in life is searching for how to use those gifts and talents and who I really am. But suffice it to say, I want to share the strategy of visualization and how that starts. Really, there's only two ways that you can create the future. And they both have to do with pictures. And it's either the painted, drawn, hand-scribbled picture or one that you print from a photograph or something from the internet, or many of those, as in a dream board or a vision board, or it is by writing that stimulates visual imagery, because visual imagery is the language of the heart. That's why we dream. Dreams, and if you want to understand dream interpretation, how you are trying to process what's going on in your life, or you're trying to tap into what is going on in the spiritual realm around you and maybe what God is speaking to you. The language of the heart is in pictures, and that's why dreams are so powerful. It's the place of our imagination. And imagination is where we get to create. I've heard it said that imagination is like a spiritual womb. I'll go into vision boards and dream boards, maybe the pictures later, but I want to stick with what I have used the most in my life. I generally lean toward words. And so I've used words and found using words to paint the picture of the reality that I want to be really a profound experience. And so I've been doing this for over 20 years. And so I'm going to give you 3 strategies that you can use today. One is very simple and has been used throughout history. You've heard the story of Jim Carrey, how he wrote, I think it was in 1983, a check for $10 million and carried that around with him because that was where he was going in life. He wanted to be successful in the movie business. I don't know the actual particulars, but I know he carried it around for years. And eventually, when his dad was buried, he put that check into his dad's breast pocket or in his father's casket. This was 10 or 15 years later, I think in the early 90s. And at that point, he'd already become a huge success. So that's one example. Now, that's a very minor thing, but it's written on a check, so there's a visceral image connection to it. It really was a picture. It wasn't just $10 million written on a piece of paper. It was literally, he used a check when checks were more common, and it made it out to himself. Maybe he wrote it from one of the major motion picture studios at the time. But that was a very tangible type of imagery. He didn't do a photograph of a check. He created one himself. So that's one example, one way that you can pull yourself into your future or begin to create the life of your dreams. Another is through lists. Lists I've used in a lot of different ways. This is one I just grabbed as an example today. My husband gave me this book a few years ago, so it's my bucket list journal. Now, years ago, I made a bucket list and have been working off of that for years, and I've been actually adding to it. This book isn't completely filled out. It's got some neat things, though, but basically you can fill in what you want to do, what you did, the date, why it's on your list. It's more of a journal to capture the memory of why it was on your bucket list and how you accomplished it. But you could also use this to visioneer and create the future of the things that you want to do, of each of those things on the bucket list, writing it out before it even happens. Who you're with, the details, how you're feeling, would you do it again, etc. And so I've been working my way through some of the things on my list, though. I will share some. Actually, I almost have 100. At this point, I have 76. I've been revisiting this recently. And many of these are checked off. I don't know how many at this point. I probably have about 25, maybe not quite, close to 25 of the 75 checked off. I have go skydiving, learn to telemark, ski, graduate from the college that I chose. I have some poetry, epic poems that I memorized years ago, going to all 50 states. I don't want to say the poems because maybe I'll save that for a fun video another time. Getting married, having children, getting a dog, becoming an entrepreneur, giving away a vehicle, getting paid $3,000 a day for consulting, to a U2 concert years ago, shooting a moose. I used to big game hunt with my dad. Having a home birth, homeschooling our children, selling a business, becoming a WEMT, a wilderness EMT, sailing the Inside Passage in Alaska and BC. These are some of the things on the bucket list through the years that I did, and there's many more that I have yet to do. I've paddled stretches of the Yukon River, a small stretch, maybe 100 miles, but I actually want to paddle the entire Yukon River one day. I'd like to hike some of the Appalachian Trail or all of it with my boys. I want to take my mom for a hot air balloon ride. I hope she's not watching this video. Maybe it'll be a surprise one day. I want to give $1 million away. I've always wanted to have a Triumph, an old school Triumph motorbike. There's places that I want to travel and many other things. This is one way that you can begin to create the life of your dreams, who you want to be, what you want to do, things that you want to have. This is a very simple way, and I have used this and been working off lists like this and others. And I've used lists exhaustively for things that mattered most in my life. When I was looking to get married, I got married a bit later in life. I was 34. It seemed to take a lot longer to find the man of my dreams than most of the people around me. So I went through this process a few different times, listing the attributes and the kind of man that I was looking for. And then I've also written detailed paragraphs, which is the third strategy I want to give you. And in those detailed paragraphs, the more emotion and feeling in that picture, the more profound that is to create a picture of that reality for you, to pull you into that future. Creating a scene in your mind, if you had a similar thing of wanting to be married with somebody, you might depict what Christmas is like the first year, or scenes from the first year of being married to this individual, and what your life would be like waking up to beside this person, the things you would be doing and the things that you would be achieving, the feelings you would be having. I wrote those down in different seasons because it took a lot longer than I had hoped it would take. These are 3 strategies: the detailed paragraph, the lists, and the one-liner image of something like written on a check, a torn image, which is, I guess now that I think about it, kind of crosses over into vision board mapping or dream board side of it. I leave you with that today. 3 strategies, very simple strategies, but so profound. Again, I go back to this idea that you don't have to know how something works in order to tap into the power of it. You don't have to know how babies grow in the womb in order to have a child. You just have to understand, in order to conceive a baby, you just need a male and a female, a sperm and an egg, and there is life. As long as other things are in process that create life, like the nutrients that are needed and the space and time with no stress and interruptions, the normal development process is for a child to grow and be birthed into the world 9 months later. You don't even have to understand how it works. But when you study people that have achieved great things in life, these are the things that they're doing. There are parallels that you can begin to apply. It goes all the way back for me. One of them that I've repeated over and over is what a man thinks in his heart, or a woman thinks, how a person thinks in their heart is who they will be. As a man thinketh, so is he. This identity of what are the pictures, what are the images you have on the inside of you, because that is what is spilling out on a daily basis. Who you are now, where you go, what you do, the money that you're making is all imagery that you carried for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Where you are now is because of that. If you want to go somewhere new, if you have a new destination in mind, you have to get new pictures, new images on the inside of you. So with that, I leave you. Thank you. Share this video with one person that you know would be touched and impacted by it. And stay tuned. I've got some exciting things on the horizon to create some community for those that are engaging from all over the world.